indisputed ranking of all Fromsoft bosses in all games. um, Quick note, I have not played Demon Souls all the way. I have watched quite a bit of Demon Souls, especially since it's got its remake. So I'm quite informed on that. I did beat one ending of Sekiro. I probably should go back and play it some more and beat some of the other endings, but I have not yet. So some of the mini bosses might be a bit of an issue. I did beat quite a few of them. I'm aware of most of them. But like, there's a Sheena Elite on here. I don't even know who the fuck that is. So it's a pretty minor boss. So I imagine that they'll just go into the didn't play or know well category. Where did I leave my phone here so I can check chat? There it is. Apologies. But yeah, we're going to go through this and we're going to rank these to some degree. You know, I'm going to take a lot of factors into account on where I rank them. I think that for most of them, there's just kind of an innate goodness, you know, where you don't really have to question, like, where they go. You know, like, because you just know, you just feel it in your bones. Some that might be a little bit more disputed. I think there's some that I might like more than most people, and there's some that I think are absolutely trash. So, you know, it's going to be an experience. But we have Orphan of Kos. He's not going into F. He's going to go into S+ tier. So, I just recently started playing Bloodborne more, I would say. I'm streaming it multiple times a week at this point, I guess. And the first time I fought Kos, it was just like seemed impossible. He's very quick. He's very difficult. His hitboxes are just they're fair, but can seem really janky. I didn't want to do that. But yeah, I mean, so in my opinion, he's just like, in terms of epicness, first of all, the kind of lore ramifications are very, they're very high, they're very cool. Just the background with Maria, Ludwig, I think Gehrman as well. Maybe it's Gehrman instead of Ludwig, but just the fishing hamlet, everything going on there. And obviously being the spawn of the beast everyone was taking advantage of is very interesting. And then just the fight in general is very epic. The one thing that bothers the hell out of me is that goddamn lightning attack. You know? And in the randomizer that I played, they kind of just get rid of the lightning attack, which is, you know, in my opinion, quite good. But every time I fight this as a challenge, there's always like, I mean, there's some bosses that I have it down pat so much that no matter what weapon, under what context, I'm just going to beat it really easily. But this one is going to be a challenge no matter how many times I fight it, no matter how many times I do it, unless I create a save state and just grind that shit, which I'm not particularly interested in. But this is like a home run right here. Love that fight. It's great. Ebrietis. So outside of Kos, Ebrietis probably gave me some of the most trouble on my first playthrough. I would say Maria's probably up there too. But once again, this is one that I think there's the reason why I don't put her necessarily at S. I think I probably inflate her quite a bit because I like her a lot. I don't think other people do. But I think just like in terms of presentation, she is just one of the most profoundly upsetting bosses to look at. She is just creepy as shit. She has creepy moves. She's got good lore in terms of the fact that she's one of the great ones left behind, right? One of the few things that I hate, the laser move is really cheesy. It's somewhat easy to avoid if you have the timing down, but it's just really cheesy. It'll just like fucking one shot you. And the charge attack, they give you a lot of time, I would say, to react to it, but in most cases Most bosses you just have to dodge like once directionally and you can avoid that shit. But that thing is just got the fucking most enormous fucking hitbox. So you either have to run out of the way or double dodge. And sometimes it can kind of come out of nowhere. I beat this boss a lot of times. I play and fight her near the end of my runs usually before I go to the DLC, and usually I'm pretty powerful at that point, so I just kind of slap her around. But in your first playthrough, this will be very fucking difficult, I think, especially if you don't know a lot of the mechanics. But in terms of the actual presentation, she is top tier for sure. Not quite Cost, but Ligarius. I think he's a solid B. I think I might need to reevaluate that once I see how others are placed. I feel like you can beat Ligarius if you're strong enough, and you may not even have a great understanding of the fight. He's got some moves that are very parryable or easy. He has that one really long phase transition where you can hit him in the back, which is kind of nice. Just a lot of his moves are super shitty to deal with. Especially a lot of the magical ones. The sword, if you don't get it shot out immediately, that's going to be a problem. But he's got his whole area just essentially just for him. Like, I can't even imagine. I did not play Bloodborne when it first came out. So I can only imagine kind of stumbling across this area that's fucking huge and then getting to this guy finally. And then he's even got the Crown of Illusions that help you get into the area behind. It's all kind of just very intricate and interesting. I think that the fight is okay, but he's got a lot of other things going on that make him just a very interesting boss. The area is just so cool, right? The Castle Canehurst is definitely I'm gonna turn this down a bit. It's definitely a cool area for sure. My experiences when I fought him the first time, I had a lot of trouble. Since I've really had no trouble, and I fought him with any number of different weapons and kinds of weapons, and he's not so bad. Bloodstarved Beast. I feel like Bloodstarved Beast is like the epitome of average. Like, very easily dealt with boss if you know what you're doing. The poison is shitty. I don't really even know. Is it even a critical boss? I don't even know. I don't even know if you have to go that way, but really kind of creepy looking. Not quite as creepy as the Ebrietis, so you know can't win on that alone. I would say it's just a pretty average boss. No, I mean like you don't feel very much affinity towards it or anything. It's just like okay. You don't, from the other end of that, you don't also feel like it's just kind of a shitty boss they threw in there just for the fuck of it. So it's somewhat challenging on your first playthrough. I think some people might get hung up on it if Bloodborne is one of your first Soulsborne games, but if you know how to deal with it, it's not too bad. Cleric Beast. This probably area is probably going to be reserved for, you know, most of the. He's more or less the beginner tutorial boss, so you can learn some of the, or she, I'm not really sure what it is, but it might be challenging the first time you fight it, but you have a lot of, if you pick up the blood vials, there's 6 right there in Yarnum that you can pick up, and you kind of go through the area very slowly. You'll be prepared for it, and you can kind of heal through most of the bullshit. But it does teach you, you know, how to do face breaks, limb breaks, all that kind of stuff. So I think this is kind of a good teaching moment here, which makes it pretty interesting to me. But it's basically a tutorial, but it teaches you a lot of the game's mechanics, so it's pretty cool. I think it's a little weird that they decided to make Lawrence basically fire Cleric Beast and then add some more moves, but Lawrence is an okay boss. Micolash is more of an annoyance. I know that Fromsoft likes to add their little kind of pithy bosses in there, or just like average bosses, ones that aren't particularly challenging but are more lore driven. I don't know, Rom, the One Reborn, and him back to back to back. seem a little bit strange. I guess the One Reborn can be challenging if you don't stun lock him. He's got some horse shit. But Mikolash is... he's got memorable lines. It's kind of interesting in terms of like lore implications and things like that. But he's just not doing a whole bunch. And then, even worse, you know what? I'm going to put him here. He has the Call Beyond, or I forget what the thing is, where he puts his hands up here and he shoots a bunch of lasers, and that thing's fucking impossible to fucking dodge unless you have the timing perfect, and it takes up the whole goddamn room. So he's just more kind of annoying. The lore is fine, but I just think he's fucking annoying. One Reborn, kind of same boat. Easy to kill if you have Beast Blood Pellets and any sort of buff. I mean, he's basically the Tower Knight in Bloodborne. He's got the stupid fucking chicks hurling shit at you from up top. You gotta kill them. Or you could just try to, like, you know, fuck him up as fast as you can. He can be hard. I give him points for being disgusting and awful looking. But I shouldn't say hard. He can be more difficult on your first playthrough, but ultimately he's just kind of annoying and kind of gross. I personally am not a big fan of this boss. The presentation is good though. Even if the bosses aren't good, Fromsoft does a really good job of making their bosses creepy, at the very least. And this is a pretty great example of that. He looks just like a steam of garbage. He's definitely better than the Rotten. Rotten will probably have to go here, because he's better than Rotten in the creepiness factor. Parl. I'd say Parl probably goes here with Bloodstar Beast. I don't think Parl is a bad boss. You can stun lock the shit out of her. Or him. Which makes it kind of trivialized. But if you have to fight this on higher new game cycles, you definitely... It's one of those ones that'll be definitely harder because it's so fast. And in my randomizer, I fought Parl on top of Ligurius' building, and that was just totally fucked up. Definitely can hit hard. You gotta take advantage of when it goes out of its electricity form, and then you can really hurt it a lot. But I think it's pretty cool. I would have liked to see Parl be more of a main game boss instead of a side boss, because it seems like a shame that you fight these two and you have to, and this guy's just kind of on the side. It's not like Ebrietis, where it's like a pretty big challenge. You know, it can be kind of difficult, but not too hard. But definitely a cool looking boss. It's like a super abhorrent beast, even though, I don't know, the abhorrent beast might be more difficult. Vicar Amelia, probably in this too. Once again, if you aren't breaking limbs, this shit's just gonna be terrible. I gotta probably do a new game through New Game Plus 6 playthrough at some point of that game. I think it went through 3 or 4 at some point. But Amelia, she's very... I mean, the transformation is cool. The whole cutscene is very nice. I feel like this is your first... Like, you see Bloodstar Beast and you're like, oh, that's gross. But then you see this and you just start to understand the scope of Bloodborne. And the monstrous transformation is really kind of a part of that. I really don't like her Fist Slam move that has like a forward line AoE. That's totally shit. Not really fun to work against. Her, just like Lawrence, they have this back swipe move that's pretty shit, and you also kind of suffer from the I'm really big, and when I hit you, you're gonna take damage shit. That shit's really stupid. It's just kind of a weird hitbox that doesn't make any sense. I'm not a huge fan of that particularly, but she's a good boss. I would say average. I mean, she's not a tutorial boss, but she's pretty good. I think probably when you first play the game, you're on your first playthrough, this is probably one of the most memorable early game bosses of the game. But she's not bad. The howling's cool. Makes a bunch of noises and shit. Once again, it just kind of adds to the whole creepiness or off factor, like you're in, like you're on a different planet or something in Bloodborne, dealing with things that you don't fully understand and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool boss, though. I would say she's kind of like the gatekeeper to the late game, because if you can get past this, it's kind of a huge hump. Amygdala. I don't want to be wishy-washy, but the in terms of like the bell curve, this is about right. She's average. One of the things, so definitely keeping up the creepy factor. I'm not really sure about the lore of Amygdala per se. Once again, similar. She's definitely below Ligarius because she has like basically an entire area devoted to her, possibly even bigger than Ligarius's area. But it's just shit. Like, not like shit in terms of like it was badly made or something. It's just shit to go through. So many Cosbys, so much poisoning, and you can get through the area like in 2 minutes if you know where you're going. And then just to troll you, they put a winter lantern there so that it can fucking frenzy you. All that's real shit. And then I've always had a question of where exactly are you supposed to hit Amygdala? You can hit her hands, you can hit her arms, you can hit her crotch, you can hit her head. Colin's just sitting back and watching. Cool. I've done it where I hit her head, and that can work well, but it's really slow going. If you want to be real aggressive, you can hit her hands and crotch, which also kind of works, I guess. It becomes a whole different fight in the Defiled Chalice, though. I remember getting my ass beat by this guy. I think I just basically sat by her crotch and waited for her to jump so I could hit her head, or hit her fucking crotch. I think the Defiled Chalice, if you were going to judge it off of that, is probably a little bit better than C. But in this particular rating, or rating like the regular Amygdala, in terms of the arena too, which I haven't really talked about for the rest of them, but I would say that it stays pretty much the same. Amygdala's is pretty plain. It's kind of cool how she jumps in on you. You also get to see quite a few of these throughout the game if you have insight. You're able to kind of see them throughout the world and stuff like that. In fact, they kind of play a pretty interesting role in kind of transporting you from place to place. But in terms of the actual fight, I don't think anyone leaves the Amygdala fight going, wow, I really enjoyed that. It's not a bad boss. If you fight it in the middle of your playthrough, you're probably thinking that it's not too bad, like I usually do. Creepy looking, though. Celestial Emissary. So when we get to Dark Souls 2 particularly, we're going to get to a lot of gang fights, and this, I guess, kind of falls under that category. It's just, it feels like a DS2 fight, like in terms of, like, hey, we're just going to throw these guys in here just to have a fight. And it's very similar, even the location is the same, but in different time periods for Living Failures. And I think Living Failures are an infinitely better boss than this boss. I do like his doodle head. He kind of looks like Toad from fucking Mario. But it's not like totally shit tier. It's not like the worst fucking boss I've ever seen, but it seems pretty pointless. Living Failures, ironically right after. They actually hit hard as shit. They have actually different moves, whereas the Celestial Emissary just kind of look at you and shit. But this boss actually, like, shoots meteors. They spawn throughout. They hit hard as shit. You can parry them. There's more going on there. And I think the lore is a little bit better, too. I mean, there are all these weird, stringy-looking motherfuckers that they tried to make into these motherfuckers, and they pretty much failed. But they had some magical power, so I guess they didn't fail totally. But they're weird-looking motherfuckers. There is, like, an element of difficulty to it, too, which makes it pretty nice. It's not like Celestial Emissary, where it's just like a foregone conclusion that you're going to beat it every time no matter what. You could probably do it fucking blindfolded, to be honest. Witch of Hemwick. It's weird that it's called the Witch of Hemwick since there's two of them. Unless it's just one that copied itself. You know, you got me on that one. But it's just basically a really shitty fight, maxed with additional enemies. It kind of serves its purpose because you have Amelia, which is a pretty tough fight, and then you can go fight witches, or you can fight witches before and then come back and fight Amelia. So, in that regard, it's interesting just because it's a breather, right? You can't have hard bosses throughout the entire game, especially one that requires you to get blood vials that you have to replenish, right? So you need to have kind of some downtime. So I understand its purpose, but at the same time, it's a gatekeeper to one of the tools. I think it's the Rune Workshop tool. It has a whole area essentially devoted to it, other than, you know, letting you get to Canehurst. I don't know. It doesn't really seem worth to me, and it's also really super easy. Although I think I got bodied the first time I did it. I really didn't get the weapon leveling system first playthrough. I definitely struggled. I think I leveled skill instead of strength, so I wasn't doing as much damage as I thought I would be doing. Stop. It's definitely not like I think this is the worst boss of all time. It serves its purpose, but it's definitely not great. I think this is going to be kind of a tier reserved for ganked fights because holy shit do those spiders do a lot of damage when they jump on you. It's kind of fucked up, to be honest. If you use Beast Blood pellets and you know what you're doing with the Saw Cleaver, this thing is a one cycle, just absolutely destroy the motherfucker. Something to add with the witches, I'm sorry I moved past there. It's kind of cool how if you have high insight, they spawn these dudes throughout the area, which is, the area isn't really part of the boss fight, but it is their area, so it's worth mentioning. But Rom, so essentially they had to put you in this big white area that doesn't have anything loaded in it just so they could load 500,000 fucking spiders. And I don't think more enemies just for the sake of having more enemies is interesting. It's just like, it's just another fight. Really weird looking. I like the you know, the eyes and shit. That lends itself to the Master Willem insight type discussion. Pretty decent boss. I just don't think that having the bunch of spiders is interesting. It has about 3 moves. Like I said, these all serve their purpose, but they're not particularly great. Lawrence. I actually think that Lawrence is probably with Ligarius here. Lawrence is basically the Cleric Beast with extra moves, but it does have a whole second phase where he loses his legs and he runs around in circles and shit. Which is, I don't know, it's not really challenging if you know how to, like, work it, but he certainly does a bunch of bullshit. And, I don't know, the first phase is interesting because you stand there and he can backswipe you. He also has a 3-piece. He can also link that 3-piece into more moves, so you don't really know what's ever going to happen. If you manipulate the limb break mechanic, that can help a bit. But he's still very, very challenging, I would say. I had a lot of trouble with him first playthrough, but I don't know, I don't think he's particularly difficult once you know the fight, especially once you get to the second phase. He basically has fire throw up, go around in a circle, and then like 2 hard swipe moves. The hard swipe moves do a lot of damage if you get hit by them. They are like almost one-shots. But you can do a whole lot of damage to him and make him seem like nothing. He's certainly not Orphan. Orphan is, you know, even if you're spot on, you fuck that shit up. You know, and you can die. I don't think this is so bad. I every time I face Orphan, it takes me a few tries. Lawrence, it's probably a couple tries at most. But he's pretty cool. And unique in the fact that, well, first you have to gather his skull. You got to get the pendant from him. But unique in the fact that he is a beast, but he is immune to fire. So that makes it a little bit more difficult because you can't use fire paper, which wrecks most of the beasts on this list. I think all of them, actually. So at least it's a unique in that fact, and you can't just you have to kind of change your thinking and change your approach, which was probably thoughtfully done by Fromsoft to try to get you to think differently about the fight. Father Gascoigne. So I think most people probably quit playing Bloodborne within the first, I don't know, couple hours of playing the game because of this guy. 3 phases, which is kind of a dick move, because, I mean, it's literally technically the first boss you have to fight. I mean, Cleric Beast is the first boss, but this is definitely like the early game hump to get over. The first phase isn't so bad, but even to this day, the fucking long axe, that shit is fucked up, and it's hard to parry it properly. The timing is really hard. I would say that the long axe form, the second form, is harder than the third form because you can just bait out an attack and then backstab. And if you have Molotovs, you can just fucking dunk the beast form. Yeah, I would say that I had a lot of trouble early on too. First of all, the blunderbuss. Yeah, the area is a little bit interesting. It's a cool area, but you can get stuck on all those gravestones. You can go up the stairs and fight him there, but I don't know. I don't know if it helps to go upstairs because that just lets him shoot you with the fucking blunderbuss too. But he also has this draggy axe move that, in my first playthrough, I know that I had a lot of issues with because, we're going to talk about Smelter, don't you worry, Colin. But yeah, it's really hard to time the axe move, and that thing fucked me up a whole bunch. But definitely the lore with his daughter and his wife, who he fucking murders, is definitely interesting. The area that you fight him is pretty cool, and this is like your first this is like, let's go, motherfuckers, we're doing Bloodborne now. Mood Presence. I would say this is an average boss. This is like the what you've worked so hard to get to boss. It's the final boss of the game. I think it's really creepy the way it moves, the sounds it makes, it click, 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 click. It's a giant fucking alien monster fucking thing. It is somewhat easy, especially because it hits you with that move that gets you to 1 HP, but you can just rally it all back if you just smack her around a bit. Yeah, I can add a Colin fucking hates category. But it's not particularly a difficult fight. I don't think anyone should ever have, like, after you've beaten all this shit, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to beat her pretty easily. And then you get to become a slug, so that's pretty cool. Marigold's wet nurse. She's protecting the alien baby, which, you know, that's pretty cool, I guess. Like, alien babies definitely deserve respect, too, even though they're forcefully implanted into Yarnum. I don't know how Princess Yarnum got pregnant with Marigo. If she had sex with an alien, or they just, like, slug fucked her, or, like, put it in her body somehow. But anyway, that has really nothing to do with Marigo. This is kind of a just get behind her boss. Kind of has some weak ass fucking hitboxes on the back. Also, Michael and Colin, check your email or the ESPN League to see that league notice I put up. Anyway, but the nightmare form with Marigo is really cool, but the thing where she just starts slinging her blades, it was literally one mistake. But it just, the hitbox is bad. Kind of hits you in a funny way. But the nightmare thing is cool. And she's kind of tanky for what she is. She takes a lot of shots. The whole thing's kind of creepy. It's not this good. It's about average. It's average. Shadows of Yarnum. I think that's average too. It is a gang fight, so it could go in F. But each of these guys have unique things that they bring to the table. there's like a process of how you should eliminate them. There's parrying. Fromsoft being thoughtful about the like fireballs and how to avoid them and putting the headstone between you and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. I think they really thought about how they would make the arena. Kind of fucked that they put a pretty difficult boss on your first playthrough at the end of a shitty ass area. Because it is a shitty area. It's long and it takes a long time to get there. But you can manipulate it pretty easily if you fight them properly. But if you don't do the fight right, you're going to get some shit ass. Like, you're going to get fucking snakes coming out of the ground and biting your dick. You don't want any of that. The fight is pretty decent. I definitely would say that it's not with Cleric Beast, it's not below with these other gang fights and stuff. It's pretty decent. Gehrman? Okay. So I think Gehrmans are 1 S tier. Let's not talk about the actual fight. Let's not talk about the lore. Let's not talk about the sweet-ass arena, which is the same arena as Moon Presence, but I digress. That fucking OST. Boys, that original soundtrack. Boys and girls. Slapping. Bloodstar Beast is in C. It's the first one in C. The OST is fantastic. His fucking line when he fucking steps out of the wheelchair to beat your ass. Tonight, German joins the hunt. German's just pretty much lit. I don't really love the fight that much, but the actual boss itself is it's pretty like this should be the last fight of the game, and it can be if you do the certain ending. But he's infinitely better than Moon Presence. Really cool. A lot of the fights with some of the hunters throughout the game are just really fucking difficult because they're so fast, and he's pretty much no exception. He also shoots fucking weird. That's the one knock I would not put him in S+ for, is he shoots those moon wind attacks at you that you can't even fucking avoid. That shit's bullshit, but he's difficult, he's cool, his weapon's cool, not to use, it sucks ass, I used it. But he's kind of just there throughout the entire game, and you think that, you know, he's just some dude in a wheelchair, and he steps out and starts beating your ass. It's pretty cool. Ludwig the Accursive. So in my randomizer, I got his second form for a full fight, and I could not limb break him, and it was the most fucked up, horrible thing I've ever fucking had to do. I actually just reverted to another randomizer so I could just get past it because I got really tired of it. But he's a fucking ex-hunter with a giant fucking sword that turned into a horse fucking mule man thing with 2 heads. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. He ugly as shit. But it's a hard fight. It'll take you a long time to get used to. You're pretty safe if you get underneath him. He has a couple of, like, he has the gallop move that can fuck your shit up, but I mean, you're more safe underneath him than trying to like hit his face or something. And then he has his own fucking cutscene, which I don't think a lot of these Amelia gets a cutscene, but not a lot of these bosses get their own cutscene, especially in a phase transition. And he gets the Moonlight Greatsword, and he's got a lot of cool moves with that too. I find them extremely difficult to dodge. And if you get hit with his slam attack, you are just going to get absolutely fucking one-shot. And if you don't avoid his spit attack as well, that shit is totally fucking awful. He'll just start stun locking you and kill your ass. But both phases probably could stand on their own as equal boss fights. The lore is really cool. I think like one of the prevailing thematic structures of Bloodborne is so in the game, men literally turn into beasts, but I think it's talking more specifically about the beasts in all of us, and how even good intentions can, drive you mad and make you into something that you're not necessarily expecting. It's kind of a deep game, to be honest with you. Underneath all the kind of cosmic horror and stuff, it's got more to offer than that, I think. I think like Ludwig, similar to the Watchers in DS3, you see the hunters getting splashed with blood, and they turn into the beast that they were killing, whereas the Abyss Watchers were fighting the Abyss and then themselves get consumed by it. So, really cool boss. Oh, Maria. I think Maria's my favorite boss of the game. I think she has 3 phases. Yeah. So fast. So like she's like the Freed fight of Bloodborne. Very similar. Probably they're made pretty much at the same time. I would guess since the games came out pretty close to each other. I assume that the person who designed them were may have been the same person. I think she's dead sitting there in the chair, then you touch her, and then she starts beating your ass. The clock tower is dope as shit. OST is dope as shit. Phase transitions are dope as shit. The only problem with her is that AoE fire attack on her swords. Totally fucking bullshit. Incredibly hard to avoid. And then, like, if you get hit by her once, she stunlocks the shit out of you and just kills you. But some knocks against her could be she's easily parryable in her first phase. You can get her down really quick. You can build beast meter off of her phase transitions if you get out quick enough. I like her a lot. She's really cool. Every time I play her, I have some difficulty beating the boss. But every time I have fun fighting her. I never feel like, hey, I want to fucking quit because she's shit. If you want to see some total fucking bullshit, watch Lobos's enemy onslaught of this. 3 Marias all shooting you with her gun at the same time. Total bullshit. Okay, so that actually finishes Bloodborne. I'm going to pause for a minute to take a restroom break, and I will be right back. Hey, fuck you. Don't talk about my weak stream. All I do is piss. Anyway. So, admittedly, I have never beaten Demon's Souls, but I have watched quite a bit of it. Both the remake and the original. Flame Lurker is going to probably be the best boss in the game. I think anyone who has played the game or has watched the game will tell you Demon's Souls is not a game about the bosses. It is a game about the areas, and the areas are just way more difficult than the bosses. Flame Lurker is just like a one-hit beast.